So here in the US specifically, everyone has convinced us into thinking that, we're never going to own anything. I mean, there's so many examples of this, but one of the most important is the homes we can purchase. People want you to think it's impossible to do it. So of course you'll never believe that you can have a family and a home, but you're different, obviously, because I know that because you clicked this video and you know what you want. And I'm here to tell you some things that I did to be able to purchase a home at 23, which is not even a crazy age. I mean, that used to be a normal thing, honestly, but nowadays it's not. But even when everybody told me that it was impossible, I did it. And here's why you can too, or how you can too. So I'll be honest with you from the jump. If you don't have a reason to buy a house, then don't. But if you have plans to have a family, a wife, the American dream, then you need to listen to these things I'm gonna tell you right here. And truly listen. Don't just actually focus on what I'm saying here. The first most important part is kind of, as I've said, having a reason. For me, my fiance was one of the biggest reasons, because I could have just stayed home living with my parents, but nobody wants to be a 35-year-old chud living with his mom and dad. So me and her had the same goal in mind, to have a place to build a family, and that's why we pursued our goal of having a home. So to start off, write down the reasons that you want to buy a home. Like, why is it even important to you? And then, I don't know where you'll put that list, or if you keep it in your mind, keep it somewhere where you can use it, where you can read it and remember it and use it as fuel, for your desire. So that's, the very first thing. And the second thing I would say is, a lot of people don't even know how much it costs to buy a house, and to maintain it. So they're just discouraged from the jump. But I did the research on how much a house actually costs. Luckily for me, I live in the great state of Texas, so I did a ton of research on the market and everything to know how much it costs, or it would cost. And once you know how much you need to save for a down payment and then a rough idea of the monthly mortgage costs, you have a foundation in your head of how much it's gonna take, So that's the second point. My third point would be, you know how much it costs, and you can see the realities of how much time it'll take for you to actually generate the money to purchase it. And to do this, you kind of need to flip the way your brain thinks of time, because nowadays everybody kind of has this distorted vision of how time works. But it's going to take a long time to reach this goal, potentially. I don't know your whole situation, but don't think about how long it's going to take. Just flip it and think about how fast it's going to fly by. So take a half glass full approach, essentially, is what I'm saying. Because, ultimately it's going to take a lot longer for you to reach this goal if you don't start now. The only thing worse than failing to achieve something is never attempting to achieve anything at all. So don't get discouraged and start your research as soon as possible. I'm talking right after this video. If this is your true goal, and if you clicked on it, it probably is. So my next point would be, for me, it took us 6 months to save up 10K, which is good in Texas. That's about what you need. And I was making $26.50 at the time, which isn't a crazy amount of money. And my fiance was making around $12. So it's not like we were balling out, you know what I mean? And the point of what I'm getting at is, you need to track your money. Make a budget. Do not be scared of opening that bank account out. Check it every other day, or check it maybe every day, every other day, but don't avoid it for too long. And make sure that you're not spending on irrelevant things. And when I say irrelevant things, I mean don't focus on not buying stuff that doesn't do anything for this goal, at least for the time that you set. And the time that you set goes back to my other points, where you understand how much time you're gonna need in order to come to this goal. But yeah, use that time that you set to avoid purchasing anything that is irrelevant, because eventually you'll be able to purchase stuff that you kind of want rather than you need, right? But for now, you gotta lock in. And all the consumer slop can come later. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be waiting for you at the end. It's not gonna go nowhere. You don't need it right now. It'll always be there at the end of the day, right? Give yourself some time to grow. Give yourself some money, your bank account, time to grow. And the last thing I did that helped us buy a home was watching finance videos, bro, to keep myself on the right track. And one guy I loved watching for sure, definitely in that time, was Caleb Hammer. I'm sure y'all have heard of him, or maybe y'all haven't, but shout out him. So go watch him if you're not. Because of how he's very abrasive with his guests, and it kind of accomplishes two things for me. It makes me laugh, first of all, right? It's entertainment. And then it makes me lock in, because anytime I'm making a purchase, I'm always kind of referring back in my head to him roasting somebody. And it maintains my ability to stay close to my goal, remembering it all the time for each little thing. Every purchase you make, should have you asking yourself if this is worth buying over my real mission, which is purchasing a home, right? Now, it might not be Caleb Hammer that you watch, but like I said, just go and find whatever form of content that can make you remember your goal. Go and do that, because you're gonna watch whatever you're gonna watch, right? That's just how it is. Or we all watch YouTube, right? So use it to your advantage. is what I'm saying. I mean, all these things are very, very simple. A lot of the stuff that I think about is very simple, I mean, but it's just saying it and repeating it in your head is what gets you to your mission and gets you to your goal. It's repeating the easy, consistent things. And at the end of the day, I just want all my dogs, owning things, because that's what America is about. And recently, here in the US, like I said, we've kind of been pushed into a corner. They want us to own nothing and essentially be nothing. And when I say they, I think y'all know who I'm referring to. But the only way to break out of, what society wants you to do is to be something and own something. It's literally just do the opposite of what they're telling you, right? God put us on this earth to command it, not be a slave to some elite group of retards. And, don't fall into the trap that leads you into being a permanent lease slave where you're always borrowing or where you're always paying to borrow something. The world's attacking families, and this is part of their plan to get rid of homes. And if you're watching this video, clearly you are trying to break out of that. So if you're here at this point, you're already locked in, because you're clicking on this video and you're trying to hear the repeated message that you already understand, but you need to hear it repeated. Practice makes perfect, and hearing people speak on things, even if you've already heard it before, it's gonna stick in your head for sure. So those were just 5 things that helped me in my journey to owning a home, even though I wasn't balling, like I said. So I hope that y'all will follow those lessons, and that's all I got. God bless. Deuces.